Ah.
Dark Aura Jeffrey. Do you think
Snape wand?
Dark Aura, that's probably not a thing.
A dark aura?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, just put dark
then
in
you
front
wouldn't
of...
be an aura, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, could you be a dark aura? You could be a dark professor. A dark... what other jobs are there? Basically, you're a professor... dark, unspeakable. Dark minister. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up.
Wow.
A dwarf, yes. Wife Wants a Wizard has officially named it a dwarf.
I'm open to it. I was trying to think of like a really good one, like a dark baker or something. That just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so like Jacob, but in the wizarding world. Jacob
Sure.
Kowalski.
Yeah. He's the ultimate bad guy. I think we can be sure.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Sunday Magical Theory
Welcome.
podcast time. Unless you're watching the replay on a different day or on an actual podcast app, because I never post it on Sundays. Whoops.
Well,
What's
it's live on Sundays.
Yeah, it is live. Welcome to the live Sunday Magical Theory. It's December.
It is December. You were going to ask what's going on.
What's going on,
I
yeah.
want to talk about Deep Rock Galactic.
Okay, I wrote a list of things because I always forget.
Did you put that on there?
No, I did not, actually.
Oh, interesting.
Because we always talk about games, so I figured that was a given. So I wrote down notes for what's been going on that are not game-related. Go ahead.
I'm just digging it. We played it again last night with our group of 4, and we played for a couple of hours. It was a lot of fun. We did like 3 or 4 missions, 4, maybe 5, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was playing a gunner.
Mm-hmm.
I just really like it. It's just I think Vin said it well. He was like, I don't know if it was him, but he said like it's a really good progression game.
Yeah, there's so much. Yes. So that was the thing that intimidated me the most, but it also kind of is weirdly motivating of being like, okay, let's do another one. Personally, I always play so in this game, this is the dwarf space game where you mine stuff.
Yeah, it is.
There are 4 different classes that you can choose from to play. It's basically your job. Like, you have different tools and abilities. So I always play the driller. Because I can more quickly destroy the walls. Like, so my thing that I do, and I think this is why I like playing by myself, is that I'm not, like, getting off tangent, is that I like to look at the map, so it's kind of like this 3D rotating thing where you can see the tunnels, and I like to look for different sections and be like, okay, I think I can connect this section to this section. Let me just drill all the way through. That's like my favorite thing.
The reason I like to play with other people is I like things happening off screen.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking,
that's
and
good.
then, like, you are under attack, or Jared falls to his death, or Vin sets up...
I mean, to be honest, Jared is like the leader now.
Oh, yeah.
Of like,
He's 10 times better than all of us at it. He could be basically the one we all died right at the beginning, and he's like, okay, I guess I'll figure it out.
No, it's a fun game. It's a
It is
lot
a
of
good
fun.
game.
Speaking of games, I was considering, this was not on the agenda. It was on the agenda for tomorrow's live stream, Magical Gamers Monday. I was thinking about whether I should do 12 days of streaming again for, leading up to the Christmas holiday. So, last year I did it. I think I did Vlogmas 2 years, or did I do Vlogmas last year?
I don't think you did Vlogmas last year, no.
Okay, so I think I did Vlogmas 2 years before, and then I did 12 days of streaming starting on the 13th, so streaming every day. So that's something that I'm considering because, I mean, I have plenty of games to choose from.
Was it Vlogmas where I did the cooking stream?
Yes. Oh, no.
It was
We
chilly,
did that.
right?
We did that for some.
It was like
no,
a
it was in the
reward.
summer.
Like a redemption or
We
something.
y'all
Okay.
unlocked something for an
Well,
Aura
maybe I could do
Jeffrey
this, no. I
cooking
don't know, we
stream.
haven't really thought about the setup out there. But
Well, so what I was thinking is like, so 12 days of streaming could be all games, but it could also be fun stuff like cooking in the kitchen, or
Yeah.
I mean, stuff that's
should be
like
like
decorating.
20
I don't
questions about Chef Jeff Boyardee. And you have to come up with the questions.
Oh,
and ask.
boy.
Or everyone does.
Let's make a game show out of it.
And then I can do the same for you while you do something.
Remember that
else.
stream where I think it might have been New Year's where we played like a version of the Newlywed Game, and we had like
Yeah,
I
I
made
do,
these
yeah.
little things. They were kind of like whiteboards, and we had to pull
Yep.
questions, and that was fun.
It was fun.
Your end of semester busyness. I also had a busy
By this
week.
time next week, I should be done with everything. And there is a lot for me to do between there and now.
Holiday, Jeffrey.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's earned. The break is earned. You really have to crunch the last week.
Yeah.
A lot.
I made several videos this past week because we had like the professor.
I know, it's fun.
Yeah,
It was
it's
fun to
super
meet
fun.
him.
It's super
Yeah.
fun. I love it. We also
Is
had.
it Aesop or Aesop?
Oh my gosh! Don't even get me
It's
started. You know what? I'm just gonna let it be. Like at this point, everyone just corrects me in the comments. Go ahead, keep correcting me on my pronunciation because I honestly don't know how to say things. That's why I look it up, and then I think when I look it up, I think my brain does like the thing where it like doesn't. It like does the opposite of like the other version that I thought it was. I think it does. It just glitches out, and I'm like. But I also
how do you
think
pronounce pasty? Is it pasty
it's
or pasty?
yeah.
Pasty.
But I also think that Aesop, I say Aesop, could be this like, it could be like an accent thing. Because I feel like when I remember being told Aesop's Fables, it was pronounced to me
Yeah,
as
me too.
Aesop. not
Wikipedia
Aesop.
lists both.
Wikipedia does list both, yeah.
Because I have Aesop's Fables. Or I did. I might have donated it after I read it.
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah.
I always pronounced it in my head Aesop. I don't know
Yeah.
if I ever said it out loud to anyone, but
Yeah.
that's
As
what I
long
was
as you understand what I'm saying to you.
I don't. But that's different.
So because it's December,
Yes.
we had First Friday. So every First Friday in our area, there's like, I mean, the First Friday is not a new concept.
Yeah.
It's like, you know,
It's not uncommon.
arts and food trucks and a bunch of people everywhere. So usually First Friday is also when I do patrons and members
Yeah.
Jackbox or some game stuff. But they kindly let me take the first Friday off so I could hang out with Profs Play. If you watched me, we didn't stream this semester. The last time we streamed was in the spring of this year. I have professor friends who also play games, and so we had a channel called Props Play where we would play every week. Actually, that's how I discovered Deep Rock Galactic, is because we played it with Props Play.
Yes. Among other games, yeah.
So all of us have PhDs, and we play games and talk about them. Like
It was fun. It was a fun channel. Yeah.
Super fun. So we were all in the same town, which is I've seen people one-on-one, but not.
Well, you had only met Earl.
And Jeff.
Because.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Well, yes, as of then, but not before we moved here, right? You hadn't met Jeff.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a Profs Play.
Profs Play.
Our powers united. Yeah.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It was super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really nice to see everyone, and they got to nostalgia out a little bit, which was fun, and we tagged along temporarily and be like, oh, yeah, oh. This is where you did this. This is where you did that.
We also watched the World Cup.
We did.
Well, we have been. We've been watching some games.
We did. Yeah, we watched the Argentina game as well.
Yeah.
England is playing right now.
Oh yeah, I think somebody in the chat said something about that.
I think they did. Yeah.
Yeah. And then finally, in my updates of like just chatting, rambling, is so Magical Theory Podcast is also available on podcast platforms, and Spotify, who owns Anchor, they often do this like wrapped thing. It's a recap of your year. So I have some fun Magical Theory Podcast celebration things if y'all will humor me.
Well, yes.
So apparently the podcast, and this is like outside of YouTube. I could pull YouTube stats, but this is for Spotify. Like they collect data and they tell you this is your recap. So Magical Theory Podcast was heard in 39 countries. Top 5, United States, United Kingdom, Germany, Italy, and Canada. Nice job, y'all. Worldwide podcast.
Worldwide.
Let's see, podcast.
Like Mr. Worldwide?
Mr. Worldwide, yeah. Apparently, we're a top 10 podcast for 153 fans. a top 5 podcast for 89 fans, and number 1 podcast for 13 fans. You know who you are, probably.
It's the only podcast you listen to.
I know, yeah. Those are just some little fun things.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. Oh, those are my...
Yeah,
Spotify
it was
also
part of
has
the
an
inside discovery.
Well,
that you're in the whatever percentile of fans.
So every year, yes. I think, well, I don't know when it started, but I started really hyping it in the Discord last year because I had been listening to Hamilton like nonstop. So it was like all of my top Spotify songs were Hamilton. This year it was Bo Burnham. So that was my Spotify Wrapped.
Go down there.
Winnie, go play.
Okay, good boy.
Go play. Have the fan's not on. You can pop it on.
Okay, that'll help too.
It is the sweater.
It's sweater
time.
weather because it rained here all day yesterday. Yep. All day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was wild.
Raining in the desert.
And it rained overnight too. Yeah.
So let's get into our Hogwarts Legacy lore for today.
Yes.
I
saw the clues for the week.
Yes. So first clue, spinning.
Mm-hmm.
Second clue, I chose spinning because I wanted people to guess time turner, and I got a couple people guessing. Second clue, whistle. Third clue, detector. The password for today is Sneakoscope.
Sneakoscope.
Yes.
A dark detector.
It is a dark detector.
You
know what? Okay, so I don't know if I should be saying this, but Wife Wants a Wizard says there's only 10 Sundays until Hogwarts Legacy launches, so maybe this will be also help people with, like, guessing.
Here's a guess. What will be happening in the book?
Oh, what?
10 weeks from now.
What will be happening? I don't know.
Okay.
I don't. Well, I know it takes a bit until we get to Hogwarts.
It does take a little bit.
Because then we have like the sorting hat. I was looking for certain stuff while I was reading this chapter. But if you want kind of like a narrowing down of what your guesses should be, a lot of the passwords have a foundable image that I can put on the thumbnail for Harry Potter Wizards Unite.
Yeah.
So that
because I think when you were coming up with some of them, you were maybe looking at that. I was
looking at the registry.
Complete mind dump, like whatever came to my brain. Scroll.
Many of them are from Harry Potter Wizards Unite. Some of them Jeff like altered or added on different ones. I'm trying to think of one that wasn't.
Makes sense.
I feel like every single one I've had like a little foundable image to.
It makes sense. There's a lot of foundables.
Yeah, there was. So apparently, sneakoscopes were invented by Edgar Strulger.
Okay.
In the 18th century. And actually, so I do want to put this little note on, is that some stuff in the broader lore is actually lore because of Harry Potter video games. So this little tidbit of who invented it and when it was invented was from the Harry Potter video games that were made. It was like Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban from like 2001 to 2004. Like those were the cited. I always check the citations when I see something on a wiki page, and I like, where's the original source? So I think it's cool because given that we care so much about Hogwarts Legacy, of like, those wiki pages are going to get fleshed out more with little details, I imagine.
So you're saying you want to get into a conversation about what is canon?
No, I don't. I'm saying I like how canon is broad across different forms of media. Like, I think it's really cool.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Because it fleshes it all out. Instead of just having one reference to something like Merlin, suddenly Merlin... I mean, most of the stuff we pulled for that first video was from Hogwarts Mystery.
Hogwarts Mystery.
Very little of it was from the books. I think Merlin is only sort of referenced colloquially, and then also the chocolate frog.
Yeah. Yes. So there's two different kinds of, like, lore additions. One is like the very formal kind. So I feel like a chocolate frog card that's in a video game to me is very formal. It's like literally telling you stuff. And then the other is more informal, where it's like in conversation, somebody will be like blah blah blah, and it's like, oh, okay,
you might
I guess
have
that's
unreliable narrators.
but
yeah,
it just, it's part of the broader world, I think.
I agree completely.
Yeah. So we also have that, what is a sneakoscope, or why would you have a sneakoscope? You keep away enemies and detect deception. So I already told you it spins, it whistles, it lights up. It's like...
I do like the idea. It's kind of goofy.
Yeah. It's like a giant alarm clock. I mean,
what
not
do
alarm
you
clock.
do with it? It's just a...
What do you call it? Like a security system.
Yeah. It just beeps at you.
Just starts screaming, you know?
Well, because it's not like, it's not private.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what you carried around. You could make like a wristwatch of one, like carry it around, and then somebody says something, and you're just like...
Yeah.
Say that again? You lied?
Yeah. So Alexis also brings up, we've already seen dark detectors because another one of our passwords was faux glass.
Yeah, faux glass.
Which is, so that's more of like a visual thing. This one's more of like it gives you an audible cue when it's like, oh, deception, lies, stuff is happening here. You know?
Yeah, also, yeah. It's, I don't know.
How do you know? I shouldn't ask questions because I always get, whenever I start thinking about, like, somebody made this.
Yeah, also.
How do you do that?
Are you about to get into, like, the ontology of deception? Like, what does it mean? There are degrees of deception. Does it whistle at different pitches?
Decides? Are you saying that there is an absolute truth that we can all measure against, and that's what this sneak is? No, it's going to be flawed,
What if you're lying
right?
to yourself? Does it whistle? Like, not in the sense of, like, yes, lying to yourself, like, protecting yourself. What about white lies?
I imagine that, so just like how, you know how, I don't know, Google search works, like, it kind of, or just algorithms in general. We won't talk about search specifically, but algorithms in general are made by people. Like,
right.
People determine what the algorithm looks for, in what order, like what sort of conditions or qualifications it considers. Mm-hmm. That's how I imagine magic works.
Okay.
But I could also be wrong. What if it doesn't work that way at all?
So you're wondering, to some extent, I think what you're proposing is that a dark detector could be made by a person.
Yeah.
To do different things. Or... kind of tuned to different sensitivities.
I don't know, unless it's like tapping into some fabric of reality that's like you know, and then that's when I'm like,
hence
I don't
ontology.
know. I don't. Yeah, exactly.
Is this a deception? You know, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What about subjective things?
I don't know. I don't know how subjectivity and magic interact. I don't understand the essence of magic.
I don't know how anything in subjectivities interact.
Well, okay, to be fair, yeah, that's fair. So I have a little bit of tidbit from, speaking of games adding to lore, Harry Potter Wizards Unite. We had skill trees that were introduced kind of midway through game. One of them was called Calamity Essentials 1. And so in that skill tree, there's a little entry that mentions dark detectors, and it says, you spend time watching dark detectors work. The experience is illuminating. They interact and improve upon each other when working together. What?
Now we're talking.
This is unique when compared to other types of magical artifacts. Are the dark arts more collaborative? Question mark. And then it just says, you increase your chance of departure for denial of dark arts traces.
Collaborative Horcrux.
Like, what? How did I gloss over that? Well, actually, there was a lot of like skill tree nodes, so I don't think that I would have looked at this and been like, huh? But when I was looking it up again, because I have like all of the Wizards Unite text like documented, and I was searching, just this is the beauty of Control F. Dark detector, what do you got for me? Mm-hmm. Apparently they work together. Mm-hmm. And it enhances it.
Yeah, dark detectors were
that
big in that game.
That also makes me think that, like, so schools of magic, or like a flavor of magic, maybe they work together? Maybe because it's dark arts? How are we defining, how are we categorizing?
Well, in my recent research into Wizards Unite, what I found and had forgotten was that Constance Pickering was trying to become an animagus, and then she chickened out at the last second because somebody said like it could be tainted or something. I don't remember. It's one of her friends or something.
Yeah. Connie.
That was it. That was the beginning.
Connie Consters. And yes, in Wizards Unite, you could pop 3 dark detectors onto an inn and and make stuff happen.
That's an Aura Jeffrey terminology. Just pop it on there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, dark detectors were the single greatest thing in that game.
Dark detector parties.
Because it was social.
Yeah.
It was a magnet, brought people towards you.
Yeah.
And then, like, everyone got to celebrate the craziness.
Yeah.
Of, Whomping Willows and Dumbledores, things like that.
So my question related to Hogwarts Legacy is, so we kind of talked a little bit about this with, I feel like Foglass, and I feel like with, I don't remember what other week we talked about this, but now I'm just like, in general, tools. Mm-hmm. What tools might we have at our disposal? I'm not sure how useful a Sneakoscope would be for this game, because if I want a dark detector, I don't want it making noise. Or that's me
what
personally.
I'm saying. That's why it's such a funny one. Yeah. It's more like a party game, I feel like, where it's like...
Yeah. Truth or dare. Yeah. You're lying.
But you don't get to play the game because it just answers it for you. Mm-hmm. What kind of tools will we have? Well, I think we will have like some kind of extendable bag.
Okay.
Where we'll be able to put a lot of stuff in the bag. Mm-hmm. We'll have some kind of navigational tools. Like maybe we'll just have the spell where like it can point north, but maybe we'll have something else. We'll definitely have a map.
Yeah. So...
But like magical, I feel like there'll be magic.
In the gameplay showcase, Alan 2 was pointing out on the bottom left corner, so next to the map, they didn't show it to us because they didn't want us to see stuff. He said that it was the tool wheel. So in my brain, I think it was the Mandrake week that maybe we talked about this as well, but that was before the gameplay showcase. So like, I could imagine you have like a Mandrake in your tool wheel. Mm-hmm. Or whatever, and you pull it out, you use it in combat. Mm-hmm. Like stuff like I see tools more as combat based, but I wonder if there's tools that we could use that are not combat based. I'm not sure. Wife Wants a Wizard says floating shovels. You mean like the people? Well, I feel like those are enchanted. Is that what you're talking about, like with the mining and stuff?
I think they'll probably invent a couple of things as well that we don't actually have reference to yet.
Yeah.
And will be newly added because it just makes sense in a RPG setting.
What kind of tools do we usually have in games? Like, okay, let me see. So I know,
map,
obviously,
compass.
So potions, that's on the different side of the UI on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
I feel like compass would be on the map, though, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It will be. Mandrake is
Magical
a good
traps?
possibility.
Can I place a trap?
Maybe a cloak, invisibility cloak. Can you like put on your invisibility cloak?
Okay, yeah. I could see
maybe your dark detector. You can get out your Sneakoscope, or your Foglass, or what crystal ball?
Decoy detonators.
Decoy detonators?
Beep,
they don't
beep,
exist.
beep, beep,
well, do they?
I don't know
because the
if they
Weasleys
exist.
made them. I think.
Did they make? Okay.
I thought so.
Maybe not. Yeah, so things that aren't like your literal magic that comes out of your wand.
Yeah, broom.
Ooh, a broom. Mm-hmm. My pocket grap horn. My mount.
Like from last night? Yeah.
Yeah. Did I make that noise?
I don't know.
There's also a dog upstairs that's barking, so if you hear the barking noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That was just that crossed my mind for dark detectors. I don't know. I guess one of the things that I know that they said that we can have different styles of gameplay, but so much of what we've seen so far is combat, and not like, a stealth-based character where you have like these different tools for, I mean...
Yeah, even when we did see the disillusionment charm, it was then followed up by attacks. Yeah. Petrificus Totalis.
Like, can I sneak around and gather information or like steal stuff?
Literally
like that's all that I want to do. Is
Divinity style.
Sneak and steal. Yeah.
You overheard these chumps talking.
Is it red? It's like in Baldur's Gate 3. If it's not red, I'm gonna grab it. I'm not, Stealth Claw. Thank you, Claw, for becoming a member or continuing your membership. Bowtruckles, Pickett. Pickett can be my little locksmith.
A Niffler.
The Niffler can get me more money. You think that there's like
I feel like the Niffler will act like basically a treasure chest radar.
Yeah. Oh, there's a potion. It's a PlayStation. So the recipe is a PlayStation exclusive for Liquid Luck, and apparently, mechanically, like that's. So you're making me think if there's an alternative way to make that happen, or it would look different. It probably wouldn't be like, oh, on the map here
Maybe
are these
less
locations.
powerful or
it would
less
be
sensitive.
like, oh, follow. You know, in Pokemon Legends Arceus, you have like the mount that's the Ursaluna. Mm-hmm. And it's like a tracker, so like it has the little red and the green, where it's just like, oh, we want to dig for digging for treasure. Mm.
Do you think there'll be buried treasure?
I don't know, but I want to
Yeah.
dig for treasure. That's the best part about in Divinity and also in Baldur's Gate, when you have that whatever skill. In Baldur's Gate, it's just straight like perception that you roll, or that it auto rolls, where you can find treasure. I don't know. Mm-hmm. A traveling cloak that has been enchanted, says Ravenclaw Lad.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see cloaks. I guess.
Remember our Where Are the Hollows video? That's a good one. We could see a Potter.
Yeah,
they could have the cloak at Hogwarts.
They have not. They have absolutely not been.
The Resurrection Stone could also be at Hogwarts.
Existing wizarding names in their marketing yet.
No, not yet.
We know they exist. We know
there's a Weasley.
There's a Weasley or two. We know for sure.
The build up to it.
That was on the blog.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they're saving it for right before launch, and it's just like Potter, Weasley. I don't know who else.
But they don't know
Dumbledore. No. Dumbledore's just playing at home.
Yeah. That's one of the places we get to go. Godric's Hollow.
Also a question. Do you think the mask will be considered a tool?
It depends on what they do.
I don't know. I want a mask so bad.
Yeah.
I really want them to have power. So also in Wizards Unite.
Like fears or...
There were those, the Dark Cabal. They had masks passed down.
Passed down memories and knowledge
from
and
generation to generation.
Yeah,
so
it's a very pensive-based thing.
It would be cool to find one of those masks.
Put it on.
I think the portal is some version of a pensive.
Yeah.
It could be teleportation. So? I don't know. I have lots of questions about magic. One of them was mentioned in this chapter.
Mm-hmm. Are we getting into the book?
Yeah, should we go?
We got to pick a thing then.
Yeah, let's go. Well, I'll still ponder on the idea of a tool and what it means to be a tool. Because, so it's like, is it a tool or is it... Oh my gosh.
I can't get my hand in.
Your hand is... Okay. Mm-hmm. I feel like we should give a hint or something. Or maybe not. What should my first clue be tomorrow?
I can't say. Because I'm going to say more than one word or something,
no.
and I'm not going to be thoughtful enough.
Oh, no. All right, well, find out next week. Juan's ready.
Woo!
I'm like, did it play? Did Magical Theory Podcast Time play?
Turn to page 79. The Order of the Phoenix.
I know.
Book name drop. Today's lesson is called Lost Innocence. The chapter begins with Sirius telling Harry about his family home and predicament. Molly makes a stew, the twins make a mess, and Tonks makes faces. After dinner, Sirius prompts Harry to ask about the Order and the wizarding world. Molly defends her position that Harry is too young, but is overruled by other Order members. Harry learns about Dumbledore's trouble, Voldemort's silence, and ultimately the suspicion that Voldemort is after a weapon he didn't have in the last war. But Molly puts her foot down before Harry learns details.
Secrets
Expelliarmus
are no fun. Secrets hurt someone.
I'm going to jump right to the moment of this chapter, which is when, in my opinion, is when Sirius post-dinner prompts Harry, and it's like, I'm surprised by you. I would have thought you would have asked all these questions. And I love the description of the tone shift in the room. Because you actually, for me, it's one of the better kind of visualizations of like it's very experiential. Like, oh, I know what it's like if somebody says something and it like shifts the tone of the room.
Yeah.
The tone is like, we're gonna go to bed.
Well,
We're having
yeah,
it's
there's
very
this sort of
camaraderie, just having fun, sleepy.
Yes, the moment when it gets real. Like that's kind of where people are not doing the pleasantries or the regular routines that often happen in group human interactions. Talk. Yeah, it's not small talk. It's like, all right,
it's
like,
big talk.
It's time.
It's big talk. It's enormous talk. We're talking about basically the state of the wizarding world and the future of the war, that there's a war.
Yeah.
And that basically the people in this room, as well as a couple other name drops, are essentially the only people acting as though there's a war from this side, So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
But I've always liked that moment in that scene because you're in the same room, but you're in a new scene. The same people. It's all continuous, but it's like, boop, the switch has been turned on.
Yep. Yeah.
And to me, it's done in a way that's actually quite realistic. It feels characteristic to these people. That, like, Sirius would say this, and then they would get into it.
Yeah, it's almost like, Sirius has probably had, like, as soon as he saw Harry, from that moment on, it's probably been kind of, like, inside of him.
Percolating.
Of, like, like, okay,
100%.
ask about Voldemort, like Lily does.
Voldemort. Well, also, we know, because we learn in this chapter, that he's quite pent up. He's very bored.
Mm-hmm.
He's feeling stuck and unhelpful. And now of course he brings it up because, like you're saying, it would be like, he can't keep that in. Yeah. He has to release it because he feels there is a selfish teensy piece to this, which is that Sirius wants to feel like knowledgeable and helpful to someone.
Yeah.
And he has that opportunity now.
Yeah.
And you can even see how it sort of plays out where, like, he has the justifications ready to strike back at Molly of being like, you choose for your kids, but I choose for Harry.
Yeah, it's a very tough situation in this room right now. Like,
yeah,
Lupin chimes in and is like, you're not the only one who cares about Harry.
Right.
Like, and Lupin was very, calm. I mean, obviously Molly and Sirius
Lupin
are going back and forth, but he's like he's observing, making sense of like, okay, this is where I'm going to insert myself and contribute.
The spectrum of kind of paternalism, is real. I mean, there are people of all these types, and even the same person can oscillate and change between these things in everyday life of like, what do you tell somebody? What don't you tell somebody? Why? Yeah. The same information, one person has a good justification, Molly, for being like, this is not appropriate. And on the other hand, complete opposite, Sirius has good justification too, which is like, it's completely appropriate because he's central to it.
Yes.
And keeping him in the dark is bad. Well, but Molly is like, well, innocence is good.
Okay, yeah. So your title, Lost Innocence. So I think, yes, in other books we've talked about this like construction of child.
Yeah.
And then adult, or that sort of distinction. Mm-hmm. And honestly, like, so what we don't know at this point, like as the reader, is what did Dumbledore say? What is Dumbledore's justification, and what do they know, and like how might that influence or impact the situation at hand? Because on the broader meta side, like Sirius being like, okay, or Molly being like, legally he's a child. That was the whole at the end justification of like why Ginny had to leave. Well, there were some exceptions because of the ways that they persuaded her.
Right.
But
I know it's
having the hard line of like, these are the rules, and like the very strict delineation of like child adult, and Sirius being like, Harry's been through more stuff than some people here, and it just makes it more complicated of being like, going by these strict sort of like boundaries might not make sense, But still, the question that, because they're kind of offhand referencing Dumbledore, but we don't know what that was, of like the reasoning that Dumbledore has for what Harry should or should not know, and what would Dumbledore approve of what Sirius told Harry? You know, he's not there.
I agree. And Dumbledore is his own question mark, because he would be on Molly's side if only, but for a completely hidden and secretive reason of like that he knows this deeper stuff is going on between Harry and Voldemort. Everyone else's is just, Harry could be transposed for the other children in some ways, where it's like, well, should they know, should they not know? I mean, it's such a realistic scene. I mean, because of the way that it plays out in this experience of like Fred and George is an important moment, because they're like, we're of age, and then Arthur's like, they're of age, they need to be able to make their own decisions, but Molly is like, yes, but yesterday they weren't and today they are type feeling, where it's not a light switch.
Yeah.
And so there's a sense, I certainly do not fall on Molly's side, because I believe that innocence is false.
Yeah.
So, but I understand the spectrum of it. What I will say is that I think a lot of people go to patronizing positions by lying to themselves. Their own personal sneakoscope would be going off, because it is not true that Harry isn't ready for this stuff. Yeah. What is true is that he's dealt with all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Much more stuff. Sirius's one comment about like, he's dealt with as much as most members and more than some of the order. First of all, it's a very pointed comment, because I feel like it's aimed at Molly.
Yeah. Yes.
In more than one way.
There are undertones throughout this exchange. Yeah. Because Molly even kind of says something about like, him being in Azkaban and not really being there to raise Harry, basically. Like, that's kind of how I read it, is like, well, you being
and what will be really interesting is that, I think the fundamental flaw with Molly's position is that keeping secrets doesn't protect. So if your end is that you think that Harry needs to be protected, and his innocence and his childhood and he as a person need to be protected from certain facts, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
That doesn't protect him.
Yeah.
And what's the most fascinating part of this book relative to this is that Dumbledore tries the exact same thing and fails horribly.
Yeah.
And it has the ultimate kind of cost to Harry.
Yeah.
The hiding it and the mistakes.
Yeah, I think that, so in a lot of different, this is another like instance of people trying to control things that they really can't control. Yeah. Because ultimately, so like that's a lot of the dynamics that we see between adults and children in this series that kind of mirror things we see in the real world as well. And like, I understand it, and I know that people might be like, oh, well, you're not a parent, you wouldn't understand. Like, that's something that does get circulated as a discourse. However, like, if Harry found out from a different way, like, so I don't know, I guess there's part of it that's like,
which is Lupin's point.
Your role in kind of disrupting or whatever with innocence, or your idea of innocence. But, Harry's been through stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure that there's not like a one day you're innocent and the next you're not. Just like one day you're a child, the next day you're not. And even Molly kind of acknowledges that, even though it's somewhat contradictory with Fred and George, of being like, oh, well, they're not quite, even though technically this is true, you are legally an adult, this is well, I still view you in the lens of a child.
Yes, and we have the benefit of kind of being narrators, so we know that, like, Harry, Prisoner of Azkaban, is basically set up in this sort of way of like, there's this secret that Sirius is your godfather, that everyone wants to keep, all the adults want to keep from him.
Yeah.
But he still finds out.
Yeah.
And the point, that's a really strong point. I mean, that this Lupin's point is really strong, because he's basically like, it might be better for us to define boundaries, but make sure that we tell within those boundaries full truths.
Yeah.
Versus like getting these nuggets of information and then you're not going to be able to make sense of it.
Yeah.
Or you're going to come to conclusions that because you don't see the full picture, we might not have told you all the information.
Yeah.
But we could have come to the conclusion because they even hit the edge here with this weaponry thing. And if Dumbledore was honest with Harry and said, Voldemort is going to try to trick you.
Yeah.
Don't you think the plot of the book would be very different? It wouldn't manifest that way because Harry would make different choices when eventually he gets the vision of Sirius. He would go tell somebody who would be able to check.
Yeah. But
Snape
at this point,
checks.
do you think that Dumbledore... I know that... do you think that Dumbledore thinks that the more Harry knows, the more Voldemort knows, potentially because of their connection? Do you think that's the thing, the crux of the thing that's holding him back?
Yes,
yeah.
He says that if Voldemort gets a sense that Harry is close to Dumbledore, Voldemort will use Harry.
You know, this is funny because it's somewhat of a parallel of like... So we've talked about like the what's off limits for knowledge for schools, and like you can't fight dark magic unless you study it. Yeah, you know, like there's
Thanks, Foodie.
You're kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage, even though I understand the logic of it, and of course, like as the external observer, like I can critique it very openly. But I think speaking to the bigger idea of what we withhold from people and for what reasons. Mm-hmm. And in this case, there's a very big tone of like child adultness happening. Yep. It makes it, I don't know.
Well, I'll go this direction. When we meet Umbridge and she takes her position at the school, she is the corrupted version of Molly's argument. She is using this like, don't teach children these tools. Now, it's for her own end.
Yeah.
But that's the point of flawed arguments, is that they often get corrupted by people who are arguing from bad faith. So they're saying, like, she's saying, you don't need to worry, you're just children, nothing's out there, you should just be learning the theory of defensive magic.
Yeah.
You don't even need the magic because you don't need to defend it. That is the ultimate flaw of Molly's argument, of like, you don't need to know this stuff because you don't need to defend yourself.
Yeah.
But that has never been true for Harry.
I mean,
and it's not true for anyone.
And that's the genesis of Dumbledore's army. Like, Harry is like, okay, like, you guys, come on. we have to be able to, we can't just sit around not doing anything. We have to be able to defend ourselves. Being proactive rather than, like, literally head in the sand, like that's all of these, like, so Fudge is also that way of like for his own gain, for his own power, for his own like reputation or legacy, what he thinks his legacy is going to be, even though it blows up in his face.
And this is such a story, the whole series is a story about childhood. I mean, right?
Yeah.
And this the relationship that somebody growing up has with all the people around them. Mm-hmm. And the beginning of the story is Harry being removed from the truth for 11 years, 10 years.
I know. I'm telling you.
It's so you.
If I'm Harry, I would never talk to anyone.
Yeah, but you can see the benefit, because in that case, you could argue that it did work the way that Dumbledore wanted it to. That he grew up a normal, quote unquote, or at least a self-aware human being. Yeah. He wasn't corrupted by like fame and fortune.
Yeah.
That would be all that he knows.
I think that there is a complicated relationship between ourselves as individuals and people who care for us.
Yeah.
So, like, Harry keeps trying to speak up, saying, I want to be part of the Order. And everyone keeps saying no, And everyone's talking about Harry's best interest. And so that's sort of like, that relationship between, in this idea of like, you're a child, you're not or just not even you're a child, but you're not ready for this. Like, at what point does your perspective even begin to be on the table?
Part of the equation, right?
And rather than working together, collaborating, even if Harry just like said some of the things that he was thinking, his ideas for like how we should approach it, like being more of like a contributor rather than like being told what to do, which it's just not good for.
Well, as you know, my educational philosophy would very much go to the other side. Like that knowledge, withholding knowledge is a dark choice. It doesn't really, it very, very rarely even works, let alone being justifiable.
Yeah.
Like even if your justification actually happens, we might still question whether it was the right choice, like for Dumbledore or whatever. But I don't know. Knowledge, preparedness. I mean, it's a huge part of schooling.
Yeah.
And it's a
like
huge part of
schooling.
my experience in particular with what I did for the dissertation and things. And sort of pushing on this idea of the linear order of things and saying like this is learned and then this is learned and then this is learned and then this is learned, and until you can master all these abstract tools, you don't even get to think about how they're actually like involved in these important social structures and things. You just have to learn like how to calculate an interest payment rather than understanding any broader significance of the use of math in economics. Like how does it get used? And okay, I won't go down that tangent, but the point being, like, I definitely fall on the side of, like, you can always say somebody isn't ready.
Yeah.
There's no criteria that anyone actually holds you to.
Yeah.
And very frequently, it's used as a crutch. It's like, these students can't do this, so you can't teach them it.
Yeah.
It's the circular reasoning, or there's, like, a link missing in between. Like, well, they can't deal with big social problems, so we won't talk to them about big social problems.
Don't even engage with things that are complicated because they're complicated. The nature of them being complex lends itself to not being easy to master, because so that's like your whole, if you want to talk to Jeff about quantitative literacy and the wicked problems, like that sort of thing, if we judged people and said like, oh, they can't do wicked problems, which nobody can, like that's the whole, that's the nature, that's the whole definition of not alone, and they morph, they respond, like it's it doesn't make sense, like those two framings don't make sense together.
And this is where I'll pull it back to the book. Things that are, whether you are aware of or ready for or prepared or learned about them, if they impact you, then I feel there's a fundamental flaw to some adult or expert preventing the interaction, the structured interaction, the structured and scaffolded learning.
Yeah.
In an atmosphere, school, or here around the family kitchen table, to have the deep discussion about things that are impacting you, knowing that you aren't going to go from naivety to expert in one conversation, but you have to understand that this thing even exists, that this weapon even exists, changes what could happen, and not knowing about it definitely screws Harry over. I mean, Dumbledore makes the ultimate mistake, but he's behind all of these discussions. If Dumbledore said to Molly 5 days ago, when Harry gets here, tell him everything, then they would have told him everything. So Dumbledore, that's where the what is the word? The buck ends. The buck stops there.
The buck stops here. I only have a couple of lighthearted. No,
okay,
not
great.
lighter-hearted.
It's one of my favorite chapters, so I could go for hours. I'm done.
So we find out this is Sirius's parents' house, because we had the portrait scene at the end of the last chapter, and just screaming, like I can only imagine. So Sirius says that they think that his mother's canvas has a permanent sticking charm.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm sorry. It's been a month, and you, witches and wizards, haven't figured out like how to deal with this.
If you could reverse a permanent sticking charm, it wouldn't be permanent.
Okay, but I'm sorry, you're gonna tell me
carve out the wall.
That a permanent sticking charm is on the level of Avada Kedavra in terms of irreversibleness in spells?
I don't think it's. I really do think they could just bring a chainsaw, carve the wall, throw the whole thing out. Don't ever unstick it, and then put something else in there.
Yeah. So speaking of spells, Bill uses Evanesco.
Yes.
I looked up how to pronounce it.
Evanescence.
That's what I always say Evanesso when I read it.
Do you?
But apparently KO was the end of the phonetic pronunciation of it.
I've said Evanesco in my head.
Okay.
But never said
it is a transfiguration spell. that literally vanishes objects,
Yes.
animate and inanimate,
Yes.
into non-being.
Right.
What?
Right. It's the vanishing charm or
Like,
whatever.
this is what I'm telling you. I have existential crises when
no.
I think about
Come
spells.
The answer is the circle has no beginning. Yeah, it's definitely a riddle of the matter and the non-being.
Yeah.
What is it? When is it that we actually talk about this in a classroom?
Later in a couple chapters. So
Is it McGonagall?
This is when I went to go look up. So it's twice. One is Snape uses it on Harry's failed potion. He uses Evanesco to
clean it all
out.
Right.
He says it out loud, like it's in the text and it says the spell name. But McGonagall's first class is on the Vanishing Charm because you know what? It's OWL time.
It is.
So
it's
that's why
McGonagall.
everyone is like super intense.
Yeah.
And it's like
No.
it's a difficult spell, and particularly if you're working with live creatures, it's more challenging, as I would hope it would be, because if you vanished me into non-existent or not
can you pull people back out? Because otherwise, cleaning up those notes from the meeting would be a bad way to clean them up.
You can
in
do
which
and
case
undo it.
it's a pocket dimension. Let's go D&D style.
Fine.
It's like send it into a pocket dimension and they pull it out. Can somebody else pull out the things that you have Evanescoed, or do you have to do it?
I don't know. And if I get to, disappeared, can I break out? Can I find my way home?
You've gone in a direction that's very scary.
This is the slow. I've
What
said
if
this before.
you have your wand, you get Evanescoed, and
Yeah.
then you, from the
I have it in
Evanesco
there, yeah.
realm,
Can I
you
undo
Evanesco
it?
yourself.
It
Where
back.
do you go? Are you like, is it Inception?
Dimension
You're just
inside
like
of a dimension.
pocket dimension.
That's
pocket
how
dimension,
time travel
pocket
works. That's how they made the time turner.
Wow, big. Big claim.
No, this is.
I'm here for
the
it.
reason when we read one chapter at a time, I have lots of time to think
it's the
about
best.
stuff.
Yeah,
like,
it's really funny.
what is happening?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We also have some mention of goblins again in this chapter because they're trying to figure
Goblin
out.
wrought silver.
Well, there's that, but they're trying to get the goblins on board. They're trying to get allies, or at least make sure they don't join Voldemort. And so there's some discussion, and they're like, oh, why would they? Like, they also have beef with Voldy because
He
killing families and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
And there's Ragnarok, not to be confused with Ranrock, but Ragnarok is a specific goblin that I don't remember if it's Bill or Charlie. I feel like it's Bill. Bill is trying to talk to.
Yeah, Bill, because he works for the bank.
Oh, right. Okay. So there's that little tidbit.
Yeah.
And, I brought out this book, the Mina Lima book, because the tapestry for the House of Black is in here.
Oh.
And I showed it, I think, once before on stream, but it's really cool looking. Can you hold this in?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Oh.
So it kind of folds out, and you see all of the faces and stuff. It's really cool.
It is very cool.
But I wanted to show off the Black family crest and read a little bit about it.
That'll come off though.
What?
That's Mandungus.
So it features the motto "Toujours." Okay, I'm not going to pronounce this right. Toujours pur, P-U-R. I don't know. It means always pure. This reflects their determination to keep their wizard blood pure and untainted by muggle blood, regardless of the human cost. Holy
Hence
moly.
Ted Tonks and Andromeda.
Holy moly. In designing the crest, this is from Mina Lima, like how they designed it. In designing the crest, we selected symbols such as skulls and swords to demonstrate the lengths they will go to protect their name. We also used the raven, a common heraldic. I can't read, it's like right next to my face.
Heraldry.
Symbol. The raven is often interpreted as a bird of ill omen, but it also has a powerful protective function, and its color makes it a suitable symbol for the House of Black. I thought that was really cute.
Yeah, that is cute.
There's
It's also kind of dark.
It's kind of dark.
But the book is very cute.
Yeah. And then the last thing that I have, besides Molly telling Mandungus that he didn't really learn right from wrong, he missed a few lessons on right from wrong. Dumbledore I guess I know that Dumbledore is powerful, but when you list all of his like titles and stuff, you're just like,
his
wait.
demotions.
So he's headmaster of Hogwarts, also was the chairman for the International Confederation of Wizards, and chief warlock of the Wizengamot.
Well, it makes a lot of sense actually in the Newt Fantastic Beasts movies, where you get to know like this is a long time ago and Dumbledore is already very important.
Yeah.
And involved in like an extremely important series of events.
Yeah.
Including, I don't know, getting bowed to because he's a good leader and then he says no.
Aw, that little children was so
But then
cute,
luckily
though.
there's another great leader.
Oh my gosh.
And this very rare event
Yeah.
happens twice in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Where is that in our history of magic class?
I don't know. Ben's forgot about that.
Bins.
Got obliviated.
Well, that
was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For our title chapter,
Yes.
Order of the Phoenix.
Yes.
Check the Discord for clues. And until next time,
Wands
Wands
ready.
ready.